Canadian center Zach Edey has firmly established himself as an NBA prospect, and so much so that some major mock drafts have listed him as a potential lottery pick in 2024. So, where might the player end up in the draft, and could the Raptors be in a position to select him? Let's get into it. Welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports, everybody. This is the channel where we cover the Raptors, whether it be in videos, whether it be in live streams, and we do so in content just like this. So if you like what you see from today's video, then first of all, make sure you do hit that like button. And second of all, if you're new to the channel, you got to make sure you're subscribed as well, so you stay up to date with everything that we have coming your way for the rest of the regular season and beyond. And because we're very close to the 17,000 sub milestone, and you can help us get there. But today we are covering the possibility of the Raptors selecting Zach Edey in the upcoming NBA entry draft, because this is one of the most polarizing NBA prospects I have seen ever since I started covering the drafts on this channel here, Amateur Hour Sports. We're not going to go fully in depth on Zach Edey's abilities as a player or what he could bring to the Toronto Raptors. We're going to be doing that in a future video, but we're going to be discussing where on earth Zach Edey is going to be ending up in this draft, and if the Raptors are going to have a pick to potentially select him, because the Toronto Raptors, well, there's a distinct possibility that they are going to end up with 3 picks, and 3 very good picks in the 2024 NBA draft. At the end of the draft, the Raptors, well, they have a pretty early second round pick. The Detroit Pistons pick in the second round, well, that belongs to the Toronto Raptors, and at the current status, the Raptors are going to be drafting 31st overall with that pick, but at worst, the Raptors are going to be drafting 32nd overall with that pick. And what adds on to the value of having that very early second round pick is that the first and second round of the NBA draft this year are going to be on separate days. So if you have the 31st overall pick, I think that it significantly boosts the value of that pick to have the entire night and the entire next day to figure out what you want to do with that pick, whether it be trading that pick or who you want to select with that pick. You have a full understanding of who's available and who you want to select, and you have a lot of time to prepare with it. And why that pick actually might be more valuable than the very late first round pick that was sent to the Utah Jazz in a trade that acquired Ochai Agbaji and Kelly Olynyk is because you have a lot more financial flexibility and contract length flexibility when it comes to drafting players in the second round compared to the first round. So that 31st overall pick the Raptors are likely going to have is probably more valuable actually than what would have been probably a 29th overall pick that they sent over to the Utah Jazz. But that's not what's important in this video. A very early second round pick is what the Raptors do possess. Also, what they possess is a mid-first round pick from the Indiana Pacers, and the Pacers are flirting with a play-in tournament position, which is actually quite significant for the Raptors. Right now, that Indiana Pacers pick is likely going to end up around 16th or 17th in the upcoming NBA draft. However, with the Pacers in a play-in tournament position, likely as a 7 or 8 seed, it is very possible, especially with the 76ers possibly being their opponent in the first round of the play-in tournament, with Joel Embiid returning to the team, that this team could slip into a do-or-die game against either the Bulls or the Hawks and all of a sudden fall out of the play-in tournament and not make the playoffs altogether. Well, if that's the case, then the Raptors all of a sudden have potentially 2 lottery picks for this upcoming draft. It's going to be a mid-first round pick from the Indiana Pacers. That's what the Raptors have. It was in the Pascal Siakam trade. It's probably going to be a 16th or 17th overall pick, but that could fall into the lottery, and it's just another opportunity for the Raptors to roll the dice on getting a super high pick in the draft. But where the real pick could come into play here is with a top 6 pick. The Raptors traded away a top 6 protected pick at the 2023 NBA trade deadline to bring in Jakob Poeltl. We don't need to rehash on how bad of a trade that was for the Toronto Raptors, but hey, we're in a position right now where the Raptors have the 6th worst record in the NBA. They are comfortably behind the Memphis Grizzlies in the standings, and if they do finish as the bottom 6 team, they will have a 45% chance of ending up in the top 6 of the NBA draft. Not a big possibility they end up with the exact 6th overall pick, but a certain percentage there, and some certain percentages of ending up in the top 4. But as a bottom 6 team, it's actually impossible for them to end up with the 5th overall pick. A little bit strange, but the Raptors nonetheless, 45% chance likely to keep that pick. So the Raptors, 45% chance, they have a top 6 pick. They are going to have a mid-first round pick, potentially late lottery pick, and a very early second round pick. So just Where on earth is Zach Edey going to end up? And will the Raptors have an opportunity to draft him? Well, the Raptors, they're going to have an opportunity very likely to draft Zach Edey. And when it comes to mock drafts, I've gone through The Ringer, Bleacher Report, ESPN, CBS Sports, Tankathon, NBADraft.net, and a plethora of other mock drafts available just to see what the consensus is on him. And the consensus is nobody has any clue. What's caught in a lot of headlines is the fact that what is likely the most accurate mock draft on a year-to-year basis, it's not at its most accurate point right now. We're going to get more information through the rest of the NCAA tournament, through workouts, through combines to see where these players are going to end up. But usually the most accurate mock draft heading into the NBA draft is that of ESPN. And currently ESPN have Zach Edey as a lottery pick. And they are not the only mock draft doer that has Zach Edey actually slated to be a lottery pick. They have him going 13th overall in this upcoming NBA draft. And other than that, like I said, there's another place that has him as a lottery pick, but typically we're seeing Zach Edey in the 30s, actually. It's not uncommon to see him in the middle of the first round. I've seen him at 17th overall. I've seen him at 25th overall, but I've also seen him at 32nd overall. I've seen him at 36th overall. So the consensus is that nobody really has any clue where Zach Edey is going to end up. So with that in mind, the Raptors, very likely, if they do want him, are going to have the opportunity to select this player. Zach Edey is in his senior year of college ball playing with the Purdue Boilermakers, and he has really built up his draft stock this season, all throughout the regular season, on course to becoming back-to-back National Player of the Year, and he has likely driven his draft stock even further upwards by leading the Boilermakers to the Final Four, with a very likely berth coming for the national championship game where, who knows, maybe Purdue can go all the way. Maybe Zach Edey can go all the way and take the title in his final year with Purdue. But it was a very wise decision for Edey to withdraw from the 2023 NBA draft. He was trying to get into the NBA last season. It really looked as though there weren't going to be many teams interested. There was a possibility that he was going to go undrafted, so decided to give it another year in college. What really likely helped before the college season even started is a FIBA World Cup bronze medal with Team Canada. That was great to see. I think, he didn't really get a lot of play time at the FIBA World Cup. Got some minutes here or there, but got to play with a lot of NBA talent, got to play with a lot of pro talent, got to just immerse himself within that sort of environment, which I would say had definitely an effect on kicking on this season with Purdue. But Zach Edey is a grinder. He is a workhorse. Everything that he has needed to sharpen up to get to the next level, he has clearly, very evidently, put into work to slim down, to build muscle, to improve his frame, to improve his quickness, to improve his offensive smarts, to improve his defensive ability, to improve his free throw percentage, which is also significant for a player who's 6'4" with a 7'11" wingspan. Like, he is huge, and he uses his size well. Is being tall the reason that he's good? No, it's not just the fact that he's tall, but being 7'4" with that much of a wingspan clearly does help a player in their progression. That being said, the college game is very different to the NBA game. So the big question mark about Zach Edey is going to be about likely defense. We know he's going to be a liability defensively. He's just not quick. He does not have lateral quickness. He's likely going to be put into a lot of pick and roll situations. We know he is going to be a liability. But the big question will be, how much can he limit that liability to keep himself on the court? Because the college level, look, there's no three in the key on defense. He can camp himself in the paint. And listen, he's a great rim protector. For NBA teams, I think that there's certainly some upside in certain spots to have him on your roster, to be able to use him in some certain settings on offense, in some specialty settings on defense as well. But all in all, as an NBA player, when it comes to being drafted in the first or second round, wherever he ends up in the draft, that is going to be a peculiar sort of question that many teams will be asking in the offseason. Is he really a player worthy of a lottery pick? Is he even worthy of a player to be selected in the first round? Is he worthy of just taking a shot at him late first, early second round? Because you've seen him. He's a two-time National Player of the Year. He has continuously worked on his game to reach these next levels. Like looking at him from his first season in college compared to where he is now, and the potential of going on to win a national championship in his final year with the Purdue Boilermakers. This is a very interesting player to monitor, and for Toronto Raptors fans, Canadian basketball fans, this is one that, hey, if the Raptors do want to draft Zach Edey, they very likely will have the opportunity to do so at some point. We will just have to see if he's the right fit for this team. But I certainly have some questions. I certainly have some doubts. I've started to go on a bit of a deep dive into Zach Edey, so keep a lookout on this channel very soon for a full Zach Edey draft profile coming your way. But I think that the reason Zach Edey is so popular amongst Raptors fans, well, it's the fact that Zach Edey is Canadian. It's very difficult for a casual basketball fan to be truly in tune with everything going on in the NBA draft. So I think that for a lot of Raptors fans, like, you just heard of Zach Edey. He's Canadian, and he's a two-time National Player of the Year. So just naturally, for the Raptors, who probably need some center depth, and a Raptors team where it's cool to have Canadian players like Kelly Olynyk, Chris Boucher, RJ Barrett, previously Delano Banton, etc., you've heard of Zach Edey. So the possibility of the Raptors selecting this guy is interesting, and that's great. There's no problems with having this sort of notion, but me personally, again, perhaps I do have some doubts going into the player, so more answers will be revealed when you keep a look for that draft profile coming on the channel very soon. So, preliminarily, what do you guys think of Zach Edey? Do you think he would be a good fit on the Raptors? Do you think the Raptors should draft him? And where should they draft him? Early first? Mid first? Early second? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. But that's all for me for today. Drop a like if you did enjoy this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more Raptors content just like this. And because when we hit 17,000 subs, not only is that a cool milestone to hit as a community, but we're giving away 2 Raptors jerseys when we get to that milestone as well. I'll see you again next time for another video. Zach Edey draft profile on the way soon.